What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. We are flying solo as of the moment. Tim may be joining us shortly. Obviously live on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Rumble. Appreciate everybody in the chat already filing in. I see Mr. Larry in here. Good to see you, Larry. Hopefully you're doing well. Everybody hit that like button on the way in. Feel free to sub to the channel if you're new here. We do Packers daily content for the most part. We try to talk about things that actually matter and not our favorite food takes, although when we got a full house, it gets off the rails from time to time. So hopefully everybody's having an awesome weekend here on this glorious June the 21st. We got a bunch of stuff to get into. We're going to get into the Patreon questions. We're going to talk a little ed policy. We're also going to hit a little Carrington Valentine chalk talk. So excited about that as well. And again, guys, in the chat, if you would hit that like button, appreciate everybody swinging through. I see Daryl in there, Mr. Larry, Clint, everybody following in. Thank y'all so much. What's up, Bates? Good to see you, buddy. Everybody, hopefully, like I said, y'all are having an awesome evening. Want to do this to kind of kick things off and play a quick clip that came in from My Autism Connection. You guys know we have got the giveaway coming up here in early July. It's going to run all the way through the month of June for you to have an opportunity to donate to a good cause and obviously give yourself a chance to win an awesome piece of Packers memorabilia. And the way you do that is you go over to my Twitter account at Packers_access. You'll see a tweet pinned at the top of the page. Just click on the link there, givebutter.com/KRPSJ5. And for every $5 you donate, you'll be entered into the contest once. So, if you donate, $50, it'll get you 10 entries into the giveaway. We're going to be putting everybody's name on the wheel, spinning it, and giving away an autographed Dorsey Levens jersey. Really, really cool piece of Packers memorabilia there. And again, that is My Autism Connection, building hope, community, and independence for autistic adults. Now, Miss Mary sent this video over of the gang, just sending out a thank you video. It's a couple minutes long. I thought this was really cool. Let's check it out.
Is currently running a fantastic giveaway, did you say? Yeah. To benefit by Autism Connection or us at MAC, for every $5, your name will be entered into a drawing for a Dorsey Levens jersey. And as you guys can tell, Dorsey Levens is sitting over there in the bag. You guys can look at it if you guys want. They've already raised over $405, and there's going to be more donated. This is not all. PTA shared, we are just fed. They can help us raise a little funding for what you are doing. Really cool. We appreciate their support. The connection with PTA happened at the NFL draft, and I am wearing the NFL draft shirt because this is the shirt I bought when I first met PTA. I was there with my friend Cassie and recognized Clayton, the owner, PTA's owner, as it says. He heard me say his name, and his wife pointed us out. And they also wanted to let you know that they say hi. Clayton also did give me this PTA bracelet. I'll let you take it.
So they have been putting a post up the screen. We appreciate them for that. So you see things like we appreciate you guys for doing the giveaway for MAC. We love PTA, and also MAC appreciates.
MAC appreciates your support.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, we figured something out. So
Just read it off if you want.
love y'all. Is that?
No? Read it.
Finally, Clayton, thank you so much for your support.
Yeah. I don't think so. But he also said go Pack Go.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Oh, yeah. Finally, hey Clayton, thank you so much for your support. Go Pack Go.
Woo!
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you, PTA.
Thank you, PTA.
Woo!
Awesome. So again, thank you, Mary, for taking the time to put that video together. And it's our pleasure to be able to partner up and just raise a little awareness and raise a little money for a good cause. So it was an absolute honor getting to meet her at the draft and some of her close friends. Just a really, really cool experience, man. This Packers team, I think what I love the most about sports in general is when you get past the toxic folks, you meet some really, really good people. There's some people that take sports just a little too serious. And people probably hearing my voice right now going, hey, that's you, Clay. And it could be the case for the most part. But I love it when an event brings just a ton of people together, if you know what I mean. Like, I just think it's awesome, like going to a UT football game from time to time and seeing 100,000 people come together for a sporting event And for the most part, everybody getting along is just absolutely awesome. It's just something that everybody is passionate about, and come together and have a good time. And then when you meet individuals and start to develop a friendship with them, I don't know, man. I don't want to get too heavy. It's a cool I think it's a God thing, personally. I just think it's absolutely awesome. So again, I want to thank everybody who's already donated to that cause. And again, just go to my Twitter account at Packers_access if you'd like to donate to my Autism Connection, and obviously give yourself a chance to win that autographed Dorsey Levens jersey. Again, Mary, thank you so much for that video. All right, let's get into the Patreon questions that have been coming in here over on our Patreon group. And you guys know it's the best way to support us here at PTA is to join our Patreon community, patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access. You get access to questions for the show. It's also kind of a comment forum as well. It more or less works like a super chat. So with that being said, we're going to come back to the Chris N one because that's going to tie in with the Ed Policy Talk. But Papa Smurf in the house says, you will be able to tell that I'm getting a little age on me. Ain't we all, Papa Smurf? The first Packer game I remember was the 1961 championship game, a 37-0 win over the Giants. The next 5 years were amazing. My question is, was there any kind of salary cap back then? Seemed like we kept all of our good players and only added 2 or 3 new guys per year. So, yeah, Papa Smurf, the salary cap didn't come along until like 1991 or 92. As a matter of fact, Reggie White was the first big free agent signing. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if there was actually a salary cap then. Somebody check that for me in the chat. Throw up what year did the salary cap actually begin? But free agency began there in the early 90s. So if you go back to 1961, typically what happened, Papa Smurf, was if you drafted someone, you had their rights and there's nothing they could really do about it. Now, obviously, they could disagree with the pay and just not play, but they couldn't go test the market. They couldn't go shop their talents around the league. So it was like once a player was drafted, unless that team just wanted to cut ties with them, then, hey, you're there. That's the way that worked. Bates, thank you so much. 1994 was, and it looks like Ben Holden got it as well. Thank you, guys. 1994 was when the salary cap was first implemented. And I'm sure that was after free agency hit and everybody went, the owners were like, hey, look, we got to cap this spending somehow, some way, right? But again, back then, Papa Smurf, players just played for the same team unless they were traded or released, and there was really nothing they could do about it. I don't remember the specific player, but there was a story one time that was told that a player came into Vince Lombardi's office and demanded a new contract. And I don't want to misquote and say the wrong name, so I'm not going to take a guess here. But he basically came in and said, hey, I'm worth more. I want more money. And Vince said, okay. He said, I'll be right back. And he walked out of the room. And then he came back in the room and said, you just been traded to X team. It was just like, we're not going to negotiate. That's just the way it goes, right? And I remember when the Gold Dust twins were drafted, I'm trying to think, it was Donnie Anderson, and who was the other one? Help me out, chat. There was another running back. They drafted 2 running backs fairly high, and they had their signing bonus, Tim, was just through the freaking roof. It was Donnie Anderson, and there was another guy, Jim Grabowski, I think it was, if I remember correctly. And they were getting paid a lot more money than Jim Taylor. And Jim Taylor was pissed. That was kind of the beginning of the end, the fallout between Jim Taylor and Vince Lombardi. And obviously Jim Taylor would go back to the state of Louisiana and play for the New Orleans Saints, which was kind of his home state, if I understood correctly. But yeah, that was an interesting time, Tim, and how things changed, man. I will say this is the NFL is flawed. Don't get me wrong. It's not perfect. There's no perfect business model, I don't think. But boy, oh boy, did they got this thing cooking from a revenue standpoint, man.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at least the players don't have to get a job in the offseason now, right? I mean,
right. Exactly, man. Wild how times were back then, for sure. Andy Monday in the chat says, trying to bring up a worthy topic in the dead period can be tough, gents, but I want to keep looking for future highlights of our team. So could you, using stats or PFF grades or film, examples of all 3 would be really great. Discuss some encouraging players, trends from last season that you believe we will see in 2025. For example, you guys and Ryan have done an awesome job of fighting back against the quote, we have no pass rush crowd. of ignoramuses. He uses such big words, man. Andy's so much more educated than me. Using pressure percentages from the second half of the season. Could you find other players on offense and defense who trended well over the second half or last 4 games? As I mentioned, use stats or PFF or film to make your case. Thanks, fellas. Go Pack, go. It'll take some time to put that together, Andy. I'm trying to think. One that comes to mind for me was the secondary. And I don't have any specific stats to back it up right now. I remember specifically there was a game, Tim, where Carrington Valentine, and I know we've been talking a lot about Carrington because he's going to be taking Ja's place. That's the reality of the situation.
Yep.
But there was a game, and a matter of fact, I want to give a shout out to somebody on X at Wayne. Here's a bunch of numbers: 1170559510. Hopefully that's not your social there, Wayne. Got to be a little more strategic on that. But he said watching the secondary get torched last year gave many PTSD. But then he shows the at PFF_Packers Carrington Valentine among cornerbacks in Week 15. His coverage grade in Week 15, Tim, Carrington Valentine, a 90.4. He was only 1 first down allowed. He had an interception. He also forced an incompletion, and his passer rating allowed was 58.3. So that's the thing. As I was reading Andy Monday's question there, and again, he wants a little bit deeper dive, and maybe we'll find time to do that. I would love to do that, and I think it's a great idea. The first person that came to mind for me was how Carrington played down the stretch, because I thought he played really, really well and kind of stepped into that role once Ja was out for the rest of the season. Does anything come to mind for you there, Tim?
Yeah, you stole my thunder. That was CV was the first thing that came to mind when you're talking about trending upwards towards the end of last year, going into this season. Mm-hmm. Obviously not doing a super deep dive, but yeah, I thought of CV right away. And, we were looking for him to just not be a liability, right? And I think he ended up being, above and beyond expectations, especially down the stretch. And then, of course, Edge Coop, you got to think about Edgerrin Cooper and the year he had after, kind of missing some time early on and not really getting, he was probably, I would think 2 to 3 games shy of where he should have been, right, Clay? Like we were talking about, like he should have saw the field probably a little bit sooner than he did, but case in point, he really closed out the year strong, I think, and he's certainly on the right path going into his second season. So those would be the first 2 names I think of.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I really do. I was trying to think. There was something else that I had in mind there as well, and I've already lost it. And Holmes MD1 says top 5 coverage unit last season, shaking my head. And that tweet, I believe he was trying to refer to the last season, meaning 2023, where they struggled, right? And then, of course, they stepped up big time, made some say top 5. I would say top 10 pass defense. But I know the other thing, Tim. That comes to mind is the run defense and how they got to that point. And we're going to talk about that on the back side of this show with Carrington Valentine Chalk Talk. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to show you guys all of his run stops, like it's just called a stop because there's some passing plays in there as well. And it's basically when a player makes a tackle on a play that's deemed negative in EPA, right? Like a negative play for the offense. Who stopped that play? Who made it happen? That's essentially what the stops are. And we kind of talked about that a little bit last night. But with the run defense, for me, we fought like hell to keep the Wolves at bay last year.
Yeah.
Because it's like, boys, I know you're upset about the pass rush. And like Andy pointed out, that Ryan pointed out on a great podcast he did there in the second half of the season, pass rush really turned on at the end. But all year long, man, the run defense was just, you could see the defensive lineman truly playing the run, So
we talked about how difficult it is to be good at both, right? I mean, you want to be decent at both, but most defenses are going to, be one tilted slightly towards one extreme or the next, right? Either you got a killer pass rush and your pass defense is not so great, or your run defense suffers, and vice versa. And I think you're right, Clay. I think certainly down the stretch, they found a way to stop the run. They really did.
Yeah, Holmes MD1 says PFF had them 5th in coverage last season, Clay. I'm almost sure of it. And that could be the case, Holmes. I like the PFF grades. When you hear me say someone is a top defense or a top this or a top that, I try to specify it's top PFF grades, just like he did. But when you talk about EPA and yards allowed, yards per pass play, scoring defense, stuff like that, points per play. That's what I use as the true measurement, the true metric of where a team ends up. So it could have been the case. PFF could have said, hey, they had the five highest coverage grades. But you got to keep in mind, too, with the PFF grades, it's just that. It's grading how the players played. It's not really saying here's where they rank. It's just simply saying, hey, here's how the team graded out in terms of how well they played. When I'm talking about like how a team truly ranks in pass defense, I'm looking at the explosives are nice if you can run down that stat, and it's kind of hard to find because when you get AI to do it, it's all over the joint. But yards per pass play is my true measurement of how effective a pass defense is. That coupled with the takeaways, the interceptions, those are the two most important things, right? In terms of a measurable. So, with other aspects of measuring a defense, yards per carry to me is the ultimate run defense metric. I could care less how many yards a team is giving up per game, because if you turn the ball over 3 times, you give them 3 extra possessions, Tim, and they're winning the entire game. They could average 2 yards a carry and end up, inflating those yards per game, if that makes sense. So, yeah,
I would agree.
Yeah.
I think it's impressive, though, if PFF had us 5th in coverage last season, considering the fact that we looked at player grades week to week and they were all in the crapper. You look at some of these PFF rankings for our guys, they weren't really high on a lot of our defenders. And so if we're in the, top 5 discussion in some of those categories, I think it's, a sign of positivity.
Yeah, I agree. Ben Holden says, if all the players keep it up, number 1 defense, ? For me, it's what does number 1 defense mean, right, Ben? Some people would look at it as yardage, right? They would say total yardage, or in my case, yards per play, right?
Some people would say sacks. We need to be number 1 in sacks, Clayton.
We've got to finish. those cliche, broad, and Ben's not doing this, please.
No,
Ben,
not at all.
Yeah.
We're not picking on Ben.
No, it's just how people they'll grab these little nuggets, these little sayings that they'll hear their favorite podcasters say, and they'll just run with that. And it's like, what the hell does that even mean? But in terms of number 1 defense, like the way I would look at it is, no one's ever going to be able to convince me that there's any stat more important, both offensively and defensively, than points scored and points allowed. I'm sorry. It's just not. And when people argue that with me, I always come back and go, okay, great. So at the end of a game, when they're tallying up who wins or not, they're looking at who had the most yards. No, they're looking at the points.
At the points, yeah. What's the offense's job? Put points on the board. Right. What's the defense's job? Don't give up points.
And the reason the reason there's so much conviction in my voice when I say that is because at the end of the day, if you were to ask a fan, all right, man, you can choose one or the other. Which would you rather have? Your team, having 1,000 yards of total offense, but less points, or more points and, 200 yards of total offense, right?
Maybe we should ask this guy. He might know.
Exactly. It's any fan that says, oh, give me the yards. Okay, we are going to have to respectfully disagree. So to me, that's why I'm constantly looking at, hey, it's about points scored and points allowed. Now, when you break that down, how do they get to that point? A lot of times turnovers come into play, right, on both sides of the ball. And then you get into yards per play. And then you can break it down even further into rushing yards per carry, yards per rush attempt, or yards per pass attempt. So that's kind of how I like to look at it there. So, but again, Andy Monday, thank you for that comment. All right, next, Chris N says, has Ed Policy said whether he's going to keep the reporting structure the same with both Goot and Matt LaFleur reporting directly to him, or back to the more common Matt LaFleur reporting to Goot, who then reports to Policy? I imagine they're going to keep it the same. And the reason they switched to that is because they did a study in the most successful organizations in Green Bay Packers, not in Green Bay Packers history, but in across the current league. That was the structure that was in place, okay, was kind of going to running it through an owner, a CEO, but everybody reporting to them as opposed to one person reporting to the general manager. So I personally like the way this is ran because it removes a lot of the negativity. It removes what they refer to as the silos. And what I mean by that, guys, is like the big fallout with the Mike McCarthy era was there was numerous occasions he would get to a presser and the media would ask him about a player that they had signed or this or that, and he didn't even know they had signed them yet because he was not in communication with Ted Thompson. Ted Thompson wasn't going to Mike McCarthy and going, hey, what do you think about this? And that was the old way of thinking, like Ron Wolf was, hey, now I'm not saying they don't communicate somewhat, but at the end of the day, it was the general manager going, I'm calling the shots. And then back in the day, they would be the ones to make the hires as well. So like, go back to Bob Harlan as the president, right? The president and acting CEO of the Packers. He hired Ron Wolf and said, it's your show. And Ron Wolf went and hired Mike Holmgren, right? And that worked, right? That was great. And then what happened down the stretch? Mike Holmgren wanted to become the general manager.
Yep.
So what's that tell you? Him and Ron Wolf had a falling out. And Mike Holmgren was, well, I can run the whole damn thing. And Ron Wolf, if I remember correctly, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, Ron Wolf was ready to retire. He was ready to hang it up. And it was like he waited 1 year longer. And Mike Holmgren said, all right, flush this. I'm going to go to the Seahawks where they'll let me be general manager as well. And the very next year, Ron Wolf retired. And what happened? They made Mike Sherman the general manager as well as the head coach. Now, you got to think on down the road as this kind of unfolded, okay, and Mike Sherman ended up getting hired. When they named him the general manager, his coaching went down the tubes.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's just too much. And Bob Harlan actually pulled his general manager status from him because he said, Mike, you could tell this is killing you. This is eating you up. Like should be able to find that interview or that video clip. And I think it was in the Packers Legacy documentary you can find on the Packers YouTube channel, which, by the way, a phenomenal documentary. If you could find that section there in the early 2000s when they let Mike Sherman go, he tells that story. Bob Harlan tells that story. So Bob Harlan then, of course, goes out and he hires Ted Thompson. Okay, Ted Thompson comes in. Ted Thompson handpicks Mike McCarthy, and it worked. But the problem is, just like with Mike Holmgren, over a course of time, I don't know if it's ego. I don't know if it's, everybody gets comfortable, but things kind of start to implode, and it gets to the point where they're not even communicating with each other. Because again, it's obvious there were problems between Mike Holmgren and Ron Wolf. Like when you hear Ron Wolf talk about his time with the Packers, I've never heard him badmouth Mike Holmgren, but he always says, I staked my entire career on Brett Favre, and he didn't let me down because he traded that first-round pick for Brett Favre. I can't recall one time that I heard Ron Wolf say, man, Mike Holmgren, he was the reason we did what we did. He's the reason we got where we got. I'm sure he believed that. I'm sure he said it at some point, but you could tell there was a little animosity there. So
you remember that the whole scenario, like you mentioned, him hanging on for another year after Coach Holmgren went to Seattle. That was the infamous Ray Rhodes experiment at head coach, 99 season, I believe. Yep. And it was kind of a lame duck season, I guess, or lame duck kind of head coach. And then we brought Mike Sherman in and gave him the keys, and the rest is history, like you said.
Yeah, and it turned into it started off pretty strong, and then when he took over as general manager, it really did turn into a bit of a disaster. But and then when you get to the Mark Murphy tenure here, it was Mark Murphy comes in after Bob Harlan, which Bob Harlan, what a phenomenal job he did. So Mark Murphy comes in, and Ted Thompson's already in place. Mike McCarthy's already in place. Well, then it gets to the boiling point where they're not on the same page, right? And this is my understanding of the story. You guys may hear it different. If so, let us know in the chat. But it kind of got to the point where it's like, okay, they're not even talking to each other about there's no unity there. There's no cohesiveness of here's how we're going to build a championship team. So Mark Murphy said, all right, we're going to tear this thing down. Well, obviously they fired Mike McCarthy because they had a horrible year that they ended up getting blown out by, I think it was the Cardinals at Lambeau Field, if I remember correctly, one of the worst teams in the league. So he fires Mike McCarthy, and then he goes out and he handpicks Brian Gutekunst on, as a general manager. And I want to say he picked Goody as the general manager, and then it was the next year that Mike McCarthy got let go. And then that's when Mark Murphy said, hey, guys, here's what we're going to do. Both of you are going to report to me, and we're going to have a weekly meeting where we sit down and talk about the vision of the team. Guys, I don't understand anyone who would disagree with that thought process.
Right.
To be able to bounce ideas off of 3 different people, and one being Mark Murphy, who was a former NFL player, right? We talked about him, leading the league in interceptions. I think he's a Super Bowl champion as well, if I remember correctly, or the championship that year that was a strike shortened year or whatever. But you had a former player, and then you have Brian Gutekunst, who, by the way, Tim, he's been, if I understood correctly, Brian Gutekunst has been with the organization for 30 years. 30.
I believe that's true.
It was like, I know it was at least 20. When I heard 30, I went, no way. Are you serious? But he started as a young scout and came up through the system. And obviously Mark Murphy made that hire, right? He hired Brian Gutekunst. And I remember him talking.
Goody joined the Packers in 1999 as a scout.
Yeah, so that's 26 years. Is that what that would be? Am I thinking right? Or is that?
Yep, 26 years.
26 years. Wow. So he goes through and handpicks Brian Gutekunst by looking at scouting reports. He said, I want everybody to bring me your scouting reports, because they wanted to keep things scout-centric in terms of the general manager. I personally like that. I think that's great.
Yep. That's why I think it was such a smooth transition from the Ted Thompson era to the Goody era, honestly, because Goody was in the wings. He was a Ted Thompson understudy. We all know that story. And obviously, Mark Murphy made the right decision there, bringing him up when Ted stepped down. So what a class act to for our organization to handle that whole situation.
Oh, yeah.
Rest in peace to Ted Thompson, and him still having a role with the team, although not as much of an active role all the way up until he ultimately walked away from the game. Health problems and stuff like that. So I think it was just great planning on our organization's part, and important to remember, Ed Policy was there many of them years as well. Throughout that process. So
I want to say Ed Policy has been here for 12 years now. I think that was the number I heard. You guys double check me on that. But and here's the thing too. Mark Murphy goes and hires Brian Gutekunst, and people think that Brian Gutekunst hired Matt LaFleur. He did not. Mark Murphy did. So Mark Murphy brung those two in, and it's all right. You guys are going to report to me. And Murphy caught some hell over it. And I don't understand why, other than people just don't personally like Mark Murphy. And that's, who am I to say they're right or wrong there? So there you go. Bates coming in here since 2012. Okay, so that was the 12 number I heard. So that's 13 years. Wow. So going on 13 years for Ed Policy. Appreciate that, Bates. Absolutely awesome. And he says VP and General Counsel 2012 through 18, COO and General Counsel from 2018 to 2025, and now obviously the new president stepping in. So pretty cool. So let's dive into a little Ed Policy. I put a little article together here, Tim, and I'm going to do just some speed reading. I thought this was cool. Rob Demovsky, Jason Wilde, there's a bunch of people that's been kind of throwing out awesome articles about this. I think Wilde did one too. If not, he mentioned it on his show, and he probably plugged Demovsky's article in that regard. But what I did was had the AI go through and, hey, grab the information on the latest that we have on Ed Policy and this hire. So this is just a quick little write-up. It's nothing fancy, but I'm just going to speed read through it. And it was reporting by Rob Demovsky contributed to this story. All right, as the Green Bay Packers, the NFL's only publicly owned franchise, gear up for a historical leadership change. A new chapter is unfolding. On July 25th, Ed Policy will assume the role of president and CEO, succeeding Mark Murphy, who is retiring at the age of 70 per the team's bylaws. According to reporting by ESPN's Rob Demovsky, Policy's transition into this unique role, overseeing the franchise owned by 538,967 shareholders.
That's me and you, right, Clay? We're on that list.
Hey, that's me, man. I got that piece of paper. Comes with high expectations, particularly regarding his management of head coach Matt LaFleur and general manager Brian Gutekunst as the Packers chase another Super Bowl.
Can we talk about Ed Policy's sunglasses game real quick? Just scroll up to that. Look at that photo.
It's pretty clean.
Ray-Bans on point. I love it.
Yeah. That's cleaner than the health department right there, Tim. A new era begins. Policy, who's 54 years old, was unanimously selected. I repeat, he was unanimously selected by the Packers board in June of 2024 after a search that considered over 90 candidates. The son of former San Francisco 49ers and Cleveland Browns president Carmen Policy, he brings a deep football lineage and 13 years of experience with the Packers. Since joining in 2012 as general counsel, he rose to chief operating officer, COO, as Bates mentioned, in 2018, spearheading projects like the Titletown District, a community and entertainment hub near Lambeau Field. His prior roles include commissioner of the Arena Football League and NFL executive consultant. So he was raised around this business. He ran his own league in the Arena Football League, and it was also a consultant, executive consultant. As president, Policy will lead the Packers' 7-member executive committee, balancing the demands of a fan-owned team with the goal of delivering championships. Quote, our focus is winning titles, keeping the Packers in Green Bay, and strengthening our community. Policy said in a press conference covered by Demovsky, with Murphy's 17-year tenure marked by a 2011 Super Bowl and 186 wins, 104 losses, and 2-tie record. Setting a high bar, Policy is poised to carve his own legacy. I want to talk about a comment that was made there by Policy because it got really, really blown up, all right? Here's what the part that got blown up. Keeping the Packers in Green Bay. People heard that and went, whoa, wait a minute. You mean I heard ESPN Milwaukee saying that could the Packers leave Green Bay?
Shut up.
Yeah, let me explain to you, and I'm not going to go into great detail, but the reason he made that comment, that is called leverage. That is called negotiating power. The city of Green Bay and the Green Bay Packers have butted heads a little bit on the cost of using the stadium. And I don't want to get too hard into this because I know people get passionate on this topic, and I would rather just keep my opinion on the sideline. But him saying that, just going, hey, my goal is to keep them here in Green Bay, is to send a shot across the bow to the city of Green Bay like, hey, listen, stop trying to push so hard. That's the way I took it, Tim. I could be wrong. So they're not leaving Green Bay, and there's so much I want to say right now, but I do not
time
want
left on the lease, by the way, also. This is not going to happen immediately.
There's what? How many years, Tim?
I don't quote me, but I know it's more than a few.
Yeah, it was something crazy. I remember. But they also said that they could opt out at any moment, and that was like, oh, no. Again, this is everything's going to be fine. They are not leaving Green Bay.
Absolutely not.
That way. All right, moving along. The contract conundrum. So ESPN Rob Demovsky provided key insights into the following personnel dynamics. A critical challenge awaits Policy navigating the contract situations of LaFleur and Gutekunst and Russ Ball, the executive vice president of football operations. All three signed extensions in 2022 with 2 years remaining as of 2025. Unlike Murphy, who proactively extended his key leaders, Policy is opting for patience. Demovsky reported Policy's reluctance to let a coach or GM enter the final year of their deal, citing potential issues with staff hiring and team stability. Quote, I'm generally not in favor of a lame duck season, but will assess after 2025, Policy told reporters. This approach puts LaFleur and Gutekunst on notice, with their performance next season likely shaping their futures in Green Bay. So, again, people took that like, whoa, are they on the hot seat? No, I don't think so at all. And, again, you want to get that deal done because if you're going to have coaches stay in Green Bay, if they get another offer and they think their boss is on shaky ground, then they may want to leave while their stock's high, they being the assistants, and it's going to be harder to hire assistants in as you lose assistants as well, right? Yep. So that's why I think that is so important and mentioned there for sure. So here we go. Bates coming in with some hard-hitting facts. The current lease for Lambeau Field expires in August of 2032, leaving 7 years remaining as of June 21st, 2025. I want to say there's an opt-out in there somewhere too, Bates, but I could be wrong. But yeah, that sounds about right though. So
I
7
think
years.
there's a couple. I think Bates had another comment down there.
The Green
Yeah.
Bay Packers have 5 2-year options. There you go, to extend the lease, which could potentially extend it until 2042 if all options are exercised. Thank you for that, Bates. Appreciate the information, everybody. All right, LaFleur and Gutekunst proven but hungry for more. Matt LaFleur, hired in 2019, has a 67-33 regular season record. That's a 670 winning percentage, ranking third among active NFL coaches. His tenure includes 5 playoff appearances in 6 years and NFC Championship game runs in 2020 and 2021, though a Super Bowl berth remains elusive. The 2024 wildcard loss to the Philadelphia Eagles intensifies scrutiny on whether LaFleur can elevate the Packers further. In terms of Brian Gutekunst, general manager since 2018, he's reshaped the roster with bold moves like drafting Jordan Love in 2020 and trading Aaron Rodgers in 2023. His focus on youth paid off with consecutive playoff appearances in 23 and 24, and the 24 defense featuring draft picks like linebackers Edgerrin Cooper and Tyron Hopper. I don't know why I mentioned Tyron Hopper. That was pretty funny. Ranked 5th in yards allowed, the best since 2010. Still, the lack of a championship since 2011 looms large. Policy, per Domofsky reporting, views both as, quote, exceptional leaders, but will evaluate LaFleur on results and team culture and Gutekunst on roster decisions in alignment with the coaching staff. Quote, it's about people pulling in the same direction, Policy said. That's what drives success. So I think, to go back to Chris N's original question in the Patreon group, Tim, that quote right there, it's about pulling people in the same direction. Why would they change the structure in terms of all 3 meeting together? You know what I mean? Or all 4,
Yep.
because Russ Ball is included in that as well.
Oh yeah, I agree.
All right, so moving along, maintaining or evolving the structure. Since 2018, the Packers structure has had LaFleur, Gutekunst, and Ball report directly to the president, a shift from the prior model where the GM held more authority. This setup allowed Gutekunst, a first-time GM, to focus on roster building while collaborating with LaFleur. Policy indicated he's open to keeping this framework, but won't hesitate to adjust if it boosts the team's chances of winning. Quote, I'm not tied to any one structure, he told Domofsky. If a change helps us win, we'll make it. High stakes in 2025 season with a young roster and rising quarterback in Jordan Love. The Packers are primed for a strong 2025. Policy's decision to delay the contract extensions, as Domofsky noted, makes the upcoming season a proving ground for LaFleur and Gutekunst. A deep playoff run or Super Bowl appearance could secure their roles, while a disappointing year might spark changes. Social media buzz on X and analysis from outlets like Sports Illustrated suggested LaFleur is, quote, on the hot seat, but Policy's measured tone reflects confidence tempered by accountability. We're in a great spot, but we're not here to settle, he said. Here's his vision for Green Bay. Beyond the gridiron, Policy is dedicated to preserving the Packers' unique identity. His work on Titletown underscores his commitment to Green Bay's community, a priority he emphasized to Domofsky. Quote, this franchise is special because of its fans and history, Policy said. We have to honor that while pushing for greatness. As he prepares to take over, Policy has been shadowing Murphy, leading meetings, and representing the Packers at NFL events. Murphy, who recently shared regrets on the team's website about not winning a Super Bowl with LaFleur and Gutekunst, leaves a formidable legacy. Policy, however, is ready to lead. Rob Domofsky reporting was instrumental in shaping this article, providing critical details on Policy's transition and strategic priorities. Quote, I've learned from Mark, but I'm here to forge my own path, Policy told Domofsky. Our goal is clear. Bring the Lombardi Trophy back to Green Bay and ensure the Packers thrive for generations.
Let's go.
I'm digging it, Tim. I don't know about you, man, but I think Ed Policy is going to do a hell of a job, man. And the thing that makes me so confident in that is knowing that he's got to study under Mark Murphy for these last however many years, what we say 13 years, because Murph has done it right. And people don't give Murphy credit. Murphy won a Super Bowl, guys. He won a Super Bowl. Like, he was the president and CEO when they won the Super Bowl. And, you know, Bob Harlan won one in the 90s, right? 96. He was the acting CEO then. So, yeah. And as Holmes said there, and his father, right? So, see what Solder said. I just need Policy to stay the hell out of the football side of the operation. There you go. And that's the thing that Murphy really never got involved with. I've heard people say that he's tried to, get his hands in. And I always say, give me an example. And there's never an example.
There's never anything there. Yeah. Like a good executive, right? Stay the hell out of the football operations side. Be a good executive. Do what you need to do in the front office, but let the football guys do the football stuff, right?
Yeah, and the reason I'm so confident he will is because he was the one heading up the Titletown.
Yeah.
Project. Like he's focusing on the business aspect and keep that income generating, right? You remember before the draft, Tim, I was like, why don't they open up the bowl for the draft, man?
And we weren't sure, and then lo and behold, it ended up happening. Yep.
Yeah. And I still haven't gotten confirmation either way. I did write an email to the Packers, as silly as that sounds, saying, hey, why don't you guys open up the bowl for away games and let fans watch it on the big screen inside the bowl? Like that's extra revenue. Tim, the amount of concessions that were open for the draft when we were in the bowl, right? Start with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Be a good baseline, right?
Yeah.
Good starting point.
And then you can say, okay, is that, did we run out of food? Did we run out of, stuff? I mean, do you see the pro shop, Tim, how packed it was with people? Yep. Like there are people that can't get season tickets. Obviously, there's a bunch of us. They can't afford to go to a Packers game, but imagine going up and paying $10 to come in the stadium and watch an away game and take in the Lambeau, just environment, the vibe. Now, here's the thing: there may be a rule against that in league wide. I don't know if there is or not. There could be a rule that, hey, look, you're not allowed to open your stadium for when your team's out of town on the road, because it may take away from your fans going to that away game. It may take away from the TV ratings, things like that. So there may be some kind of, collectively bargained agreement amongst the owners, if that makes sense. So I think that would be really, really cool if they could do that. So
that'd be awesome.
Yeah. And if it does have something to do with like what we were talking about contractually, whether it was with the contracts or just other teams wanting the majority of that fan base to be able to travel to those games, then why not try to get it changed?
Clayton, I'll make sure I bring this up at the shareholders meeting, July 25th.
Walk down there on the field.
As soon as Ed Policy puts his right hand on the Bible, right, and is officially sworn in as the president and CEO, we'll make sure that's the first order of business,
Tim's like, I got something to say, guys. He's going to walk down the stands, hop the fence. Security guard's going to tackle him.
Yeah, I was going to say, see how many questions I can get out before I'm escorted out of the premise by security, right?
I love it, dude.
No, but super excited for Ed Policy. I think we should mention, right, Clayton, a Notre Dame guy. We're Notre Dame fans. He got his bachelor's at Notre Dame down there in South Bend, before going to Stanford for law and all that stuff. So do a little bit of reading up on Ed Policy, and you'll see very quickly that the Packers are in great hands here going forward.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. All right, let's dive into some Carrington Valentine talk. All right, I don't know if we'll do enough for 2 segments here. So what we're going to do, Tim, is we're just going to kind of hold off on cutting it into a second segment, although if you are listening to this and it was a second full hour, welcome into hour 2. But I don't feel comfortable saying we're going to have enough to fill it in. So I put this tweet out earlier today, right? And you guys remember the tweet that I threw out yesterday saying Carrington Valentine, who is set to replace Jair Alexander at the right cornerback position, had a 69.0 passer rating when targeted, significantly better than Ja's 77.6, with the same amount of targets at 30. Interceptions, they both had 2. Touchdowns allowed. Alexander allowed 2 touchdowns. Carrington Valentine allowed 0. Keep in mind, with almost 200 more snaps than Ja had. All right. So what I did was I put another tweet together today and said Carrington Valentine also finished the 2024 season with 15 stops. All right. Now, what's a stop? A defensive stop are tackles that result in a successful play for the defense, aka a negative EPA for the offense, while Jair Alexander only had 2. Here are those 15 plays from Carrington Valentine, where Valentine made the stop. So again, 200 more snaps, but when you break it down into percentage, Carrington Valentine overall snaps had a 2% stop rate at the cornerback position. Jair's came to 0.005. All right. And the reason I bring that up is because I've heard some people say on Twitter that Carrington tackles just as bad as Ja does. And I was like, I don't think we're watching the same game here, right? Like, I don't think we're watching the same team. So what we did was we put together a Chalk Talk. Now, I want to say this, guys. We're going to pull up Chalk Talk here. If the stream goes down, if the live stream goes down, we're going to be still live on Rumble, and we'll still be live on X, okay? Hopefully it'll stay up. Last time we did this, it stayed up. But if it does go down, just understand that we will cut this and make it its own segment, whether it's monetized or not, on YouTube, so you'll be able to watch it later. But if the stream goes down, no, we're still live over on Rumble. And a lot of times the stream will come back up on YouTube a few minutes later. So just keep that in mind. Tim, you ready to get into this, man?
Let's go.
All right. This was fun, man. This is a change of pace. You know, in the past, we've broken down, this is a 11 gun, Trey Wright, nasty split. This is just football here, guys. We're just going to show Carrington Valentine. I think it's 15 plays making tackles. All right.
Nice.
So can you see this on the screen, Tim? We good?
Yeah.
All
I
right.
can see it. Perfect. This is the Indy game, right? We're starting with.
I believe this was the Indianapolis coach. Yeah. And what I did was just went in chronological order through last season. Again, these are 15 stops. All right. 15 stops that Carrington Valentine had. And let's go 75%. All right. So you see here playing right corner from the defense's perspective, right? So you've got him circled up here. This is pretty straightforward. And again, let's watch him attack the football. All right. So right here, it's actually a pass. He's going to drop back. They're going to dink it underneath to what we call a stab route, right? See it? Running back. Look at Carrington break on the ball. Bang.
Yep.
And again, people that are, he tackles just as bad as Jair. My man will put his head in there. And Tim, you go ahead and give the full disclaimer here that you talked about last night. You're a little concerned about this, aren't you?
Yeah. In the essence of, don't get me wrong. I love me a hard hitting corner, right? But I don't know if I need my corners to be the hardest hitters on the football field. I need my corners to play smart, like we just saw CV do on this play, right? Little soft zone coverage looks like, and staying in your spot, keeping your eyes on the passer, those kind of things. That's what I want to see. Arrive at that confrontation, taking a good angle and wrap up, make good tackles. But we saw what happened to Ja, man. He flew in there one real good time. And I mean, we can run back that tape. That was one of the hits for the ages right there that Ja lowered the boom. I believe it was against Miami in that game. And, we talk about him not being the same player ever since then, trying to get back from that injury. So I think utilizing your feet and your head and your FBI, like CV's doing here on these plays, this is what I'm looking for. But you're right, though. I love the fact that he is not afraid to go in there and pop somebody, man. You got to love it.
Yeah. And what I love about this, too, this is what he does really well, this fisheye technique. Look at how he's got eyes on the quarterback, and look how he's covering the corner route.
Yeah.
He is begging. He is absolutely begging the quarterback to try to drop it in the bucket right here, because he's going to go back and pick that pass off, right? But right here, you see the ball's already out. Look how quickly he breaks on the ball. And again, I love that his technique. He doesn't get too far inside. Notice how he stays squared up on the outside half. It's called playing a half a player. When you're the contained guy, you're the last line of defense on the outside. You play the outside shoulder of that player. You know how many times people will just dive inside and give up the sideline? That stuff drives me absolutely insane. So again, it's just everything's technically sound. The coverage he takes away that corner route, and then he attacks the football. So here he is on the next play, same team against the Colts. You're going to see him kind of play closer to the line of scrimmage. So he's more or less covering this tight end over here, right? They had a nub left look. And let's watch him here. So this is going to be a running play. They're going to try to scissor this thing out, right? Again, watch how he plays this. See how he's squared up there, Tim?
Yep.
Like he knows, can't let him bounce that outside.
Yep.
And then, of course, sticking his head in there, bang, and knocking the pile over.
Yeah, you're forcing that ball carrier into the teeth of your defense, really, by staying home, being fundamentally sound there. It's a great example.
Yep. He is very, for such a young player, I know it was his second year in the league and a 7th-round pick, very, very fundamentally sound and willing to stick his head in there. There's one play where you see him take out LVN too, and it blew my mind. Like I was like, this dude loves to hit. This might be it right here because LVN's in front of them. So once again, they're showing kind of a double nub left, right? This is a 12 personnel with the Lions now. You were at this game, right,
I was
Tim?
at this game. Show me something good. Show me the one highlight from this game here.
So here we go. All right. Watch him. He's blitzing. So this is a cat blitz. He knows that the safety is going to pick up that tight end on the backside. Watch who he takes on here, guys. This is a tight end, right? I'm pretty sure that's who he takes on this play. Let's watch Carrington. Look at that jump inside. Bang.
Yep.
Like, there's not a lot of corners in the league that makes that play right there. Watch it again. We'll try to put it on loop for you. Whoop.
And again, just by being smart and athletic, right?
Yep.
I mean, that wasn't brute force. He just, slipped that block right there.
Yeah, and look at LVN getting back there too, almost drawing a hold, right?
Yep.
But setting the edge, forcing the running back inside. Great job by LVN right there. But again, Carrington just willing to put his nose in there and make the tackle. That's a hell of a move on that tight. That tight end didn't know what to do. Let's see if we can get it perfectly. Look at my man. What's he grabbing at, Tim? What's this guy doing? Again, look at the body lean, right? Yep. We do that all the time. Let's go about 50%. I think we can see a little bit better. But Carrington getting his head in there, making the tackle, man.
Love it.
I'm impressed. I'm really, really impressed with his run defense skills. All right, here we go again against the Lions. So they got like a semi-stack look here on the left. This looks like a 12. Again, they love their 12 personnel. Now, it's more of a balance, tight end on each side, so you don't have that nub approach, but you do got a twin stack left here. And watch Carrington on this play. So he's playing a little off, like he's going to play a little catch man zone. And you see they're going to hand it off. Now, look at him. His eyes are in the backfield, right? Notice he's eyeing up his work right now. Now, who's the last level of defense out here, right? It's Carrington. Yep. So you see Wilson does a good job setting the edge, forcing the running back in. Now look at Carrington. Again, playing the outside shoulder, getting in there and helping make the tackle.
Love to see it.
Yep. All right, here we go against the Bears now. All right, similar look. Now they've got it's a nasty split. Those are twin. It's twin nasty look on the left there. All right. Let's watch him on this play. See if it's a running play or maybe a passing play. Running play. All right, so they're going to, once again, hand it up the middle. Look at LVN, by the way, getting out here off the edge, right? And watch Carrington come in here and square up. Look at my man filling that gap like a backer. There's where he took LVN out. Again, watch him come flying in here, Tim.
Yeah, I don't think LVN knew he was there until he landed on him.
Right. And LVN done a hell of a job getting outside, setting the edge. Forcing the running back in, and Carrington sees that and just attacks inside. Bang.
It's a trend that we've seen with Hafley's system that these guys just refuse to be blocked. That's really what it is. I mean, you don't have to get off of a block if you're never on one. I mean, great job by LVN there, just slipping a block. Look at just refusing to be contacted and stay in the play. A couple of years ago we saw guys over pursuing and getting washed out of plays, and we're not seeing that anymore.
Yeah, I think that was it. Might have been Coop that came in there too. Look like.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there you go against the Bears. Now here we are, kind of it's showing press technique down here at the bottom. All right, like they're going to press up. Looks like they got a little bit of motion out there. Now look at him square up. Right, so we're not playing press. This is a zone read. Again, with the zone read, the quarterback is going to put the ball in the belly of the running back. Mm-hmm. If this defender LVN squares up, then he's going to keep it in the belly and let the running back run it, okay? But notice how LVN is vertical. They teach them if you read squat, pull it and go, right? If they're vertical, that means they're driving up the field, then you pull it or you hand it off to the running back, right? If they square up, if they squat, hand it to the running back. If they're vert, then you pull it and go. So what he's going to do here is he's going to pull it and go, all right? Now look at Carrington. Let's go back to Carrington, the focus here. I'm going to
Eyes have not left the quarterback yet.
I'm telling you, it's that fish eye. That's what Hafley teaches. He's playing his coverage while looking at the quarterback, right? And again, watch him right here, Tim. Keenan Allen thinks he's going to block him, right? Watch what he does to Keenan Allen, guys. Please, please, please pay attention down here to what he does to Keenan Allen, the wily veteran. Get your ass out of the way. Look at that.
Threw him like a rag doll.
And this is what's hilarious. The superhero of Caleb Williams, right? He sees 24 and says, let me get my butt on the ground. Again, man, just the block shed there. You don't see that often from a corner. He just
No,
ragdolled Keenan Allen.
especially a second-year corner on a, what's Keenan Allen, 10-year vet, veteran wide receiver here, and CV made him look like the rookie.
Yeah, hell of a play there by. Okay, and look at Evan Williams coming in too.
Yep.
You
See,
know?
that's the other thing, right? We see this. This is a trend too. It's this is a CV highlight reel here. We're looking at stops, but look at the amount of Packer jerseys rallying to the ball. I mean, it's a trend you see no matter how much tape you watch. You've got more than one green and gold heading towards the ball carrier, and I love it.
Yeah. The other thing that sticks out, man, constantly on this footage of Carrington Valentine's run defense. So obviously Evan out here playing post safety, right? When he comes into attack, Carrington has got to play outside in, right? You got to make sure Caleb doesn't get to the outside. So watch what Carrington is, almost like a running back. Watch, he's going to engage. Watch the jab step in right there to make Caleb think he's going to go inside. Then he slings him out, plays the outside shoulder, and he's ready to attack the outside half of Caleb. I love how he stands over Caleb too. By the way,
And that is exactly what that is. That is a stop for Valentine because he basically forced Caleb Williams to have to slide there. He had nowhere to go.
Yep, for sure. All right, here we go. Another nasty split by the Bears. You got Carrington up top. All right, another zone read. This time he's handing the ball off to the running back. Now look at Carrington once again. You got to protect outside. See how the edge gets kind of washed inside with a double team block. So it's up to Carrington to keep him from bouncing this thing. And look where he's at. Bang.
Perfect.
Really, really good tackle skills, man.
See, Caleb Williams didn't want the smoke either. He wasn't going to get up there and try and chip him.
Ain't going. Yeah, he ain't trying to get that action, Tim.
Nope.
Again, just watch it on loop. Patient. Play the outside half.
Love it.
It's the start.
No hesitation. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. It's the same thing we see with Edge Coop at the linebacker position. Start, stop, shoot, right?
Yep. That's it. Watch him, guys. Start, stop, now shoot your shot. Bang.
Yep.
Right? Some guys just go start and they're 100 mile an hour and they outrun the play.
Right.
It's huge to play with balance like that. So, all right, here we are against the Seahawks now. Valentine playing on the outside right corner again. Now, right here, I was kind of explaining this to the guys last night. We were watching a little bit of this offline. Anytime you've got kind of a look like this guy's looking to create a little bit of bang and go, right? And looking to play some kind of catch man zone outside, right? So again, here we go. They're going to dink and dunk, drop it underneath. Look how he attacks the football. Again, a stop. Yep. Negative EPA play for the offense. And it doesn't look like it ain't sexy, right, Tim? It's just watch him attack the football, though.
I just can't get over how beautifully schemed it is. I mean, look at how many defenders are around this receiver when he catches the football. I mean, you talk about hat count all the time. We got 3-on-2 here in the hat count.
That's it. Well, we call that, Tim, when you got two options, it's triangle.
Yep.
Right? When you've got three options, it should be box. All right. So when you got three options, it should be box. When it's two, it's triangle. Now right here is where the ball probably should have went, but they did pick up, positive yards here. But again, just Carrington breaking on the ball, man. Great job there. So
absolutely incredible.
All right. Up next, now we are, who is this? Miami? Yeah, this is Miami. So he's showing a press tech here, and you could see Xavier kind of came in and showed a little spur look, and now he's belling back out. So it's probably a too high look, might be a cover 6 look, that type of thing. Let's watch Carrington at the top. They're going to do a little outside run here, a little outside zone. Notice the offensive line, everybody blocking down, right? They're blocking down. That's a wide zone left look there. All right, now let's take it back. Watch Carrington. Once again, he's got to play outside technique. Watch him, Tyreek Hill, and play the outside. See him? Yep. It'd been real easy once you shed him to just shoot your shot inside, and then he busted outside on you, right? But look at him, follow it all the way over.
Yep, and you see Tyreek had to put his hands up there at the end because he was definitely holding for dear life.
Right. Exactly.
Great job by CV there. You're right, because the temptation is there is to shed that blocker and then just dive at the feet of the ball carrier, but that's how you get blown up the sideline for 20 yards a lot of times. So great fundamental football here.
Yeah, definitely. And again, he just seemed like he plays with good balance too. That's the other thing that sticks out to me. You know, you never see him off balance. He's just got good control.
Yeah, you don't see him like flailing around out there, or you know, he looks very in control of his body for sure.
Yeah. United Bates says life, liberty, and the pursuit of the ball carrier, Thomas Jefferson. Love it. All right, here we are against the Seahawks again.
What is Seattle?
So it's another run. All right. Look at Carrington already attacking the football. He knows, cannot let him get outside here, right? Look at him force him back in to the teeth of the defense.
Yep.
That is
our boy Zay McDuffie doing what he does, right?
That's called selfless football right there. Rather than try to be the hero and get there and make the tackle, look, make sure he does not bust that outside.
Yep.
Make sure he doesn't bust it outside.
Yep. And you notice that yards after contact seems to be lower. Like once we make contact, man, that guy's going down.
Yep.
You know, I'm used to seeing we've had defenders that a play like this, bang, he's still, you know, keeping the feet moving and it's another 2 or 3 yards. We don't see that as much anymore with this defense, man. These guys are, you know, burying that ball carrier as soon as they make contact.
No, I completely agree. I believe that was Xavier McKinney that got in there and done a little bit of the dirty work too, didn't he?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Great job. So again, CV, man.
Yep.
Run defense is underrated.
Yeah.
And I know some people are probably hearing this on the pod or they're, you know, watching it live with us here, maybe watching it back later, and they're going, yeah, how does he cover? He covered damn good. Covered damn good last year. Didn't give up a single touchdown. Had the lowest passer rating when targeted amongst all the corners, including Jair. This is the run aspect. And again, what we finished with the second best run defense in the entire league in terms of yards per carry. This is one of the reasons why, is how their corners got really physical. And listen, I don't want to keep piling on, but Ja missed significant time. The run defense got better. I'm just saying. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. So here's a little touch pass, right? Little touch, bang. Some call it a shovel, call it a touch. Look at him get outside again, Tim. Watch him fight. Taking it all the way to the sideline.
Love it.
Again, it's the thing that sticks out again. If you're filling out a scouting card here on CV, it's balance.
Yep.
He never hits the ground.
He takes a shot right there too. Helmet right in the chest plate, and he doesn't fall down.
Yeah, definitely.
Love it.
Take care of some business real quick here. Our boy, look, he created another account. Goop Sucks 102. Oh boy, he'll get tired sooner or later, and he's gone. All right.
Bye, Omer.
Yeah, see you, Omer. Good to see you. See you, O. Bates in the chat. Thanks for swinging by. Hit that like button on the way out, bub. All right, moving along here. Next play here with Carrington. He just, I don't know, man. I think he's going to be a spark plug too. You guys remember when he went to the NFL? I've talked about this a couple of times. You know, me being a Kentucky fan, you know, I love Notre Dame, love Kentucky, and I pull for Tennessee, being right down here next to Knoxville. When Carrington left for the NFL, Coach Stoops said, we lost our emotional leader on defense. That's what he referred to Carrington as. And again, he slides all the way to the 7th round. And you think, oh, he sucks. No, that doesn't mean he sucked. There's a reason he dropped. There's no doubt about it. But maybe it takes a year or two, right? Developmental prospect. So
absolutely.
Ed Madden said, sit your butt outside. Tim, I'm going to need that. I need that just one time when you get a chance, sir, since we had to run O off. Poor O. Moment of silence for O.
Sit your butt outside.
There you go. All right, moving on to the next play. You guys, this is kind of exciting here. Justin Jefferson, right? And look at Carrington communicating with Javon Bullard back at safety. You got X on the opposite side. So they're not rolling X or the coverage over to F here, right? And watch CV communicating, right? Now look at this. Just a little stop route, right? Not quite a smoke, but a stop. Look at him break.
Yeah, like as soon as JJ puts his foot in the ground, so does CV. You see that? Watch them both get to the break. Look, boom. Not going to be beat.
Yep. And again, just all over it, man. All over it.
Love it. I wonder what he was saying to Bullard there pre-snap. Was he saying, I got it.
Right. Exactly.
Like, don't even worry about it. I got him.
And to me, it looks like the majority of the coverage is shaded toward Eric Stokes' side, like they were trying to give him help, you know?
That's what it looks like to me also, yeah. As you see him let the guy run right past him.
Right. Yeah. It's we ain't got to worry about that anymore. But again, CV breaking on Justin Jefferson. We got another one where he runs an over route. And I want you to get, to me, it looked like pretty darn good coverage, and he ends up getting the stop. It's right here. So he's kind of pressed up, man. He's kind of pressed up on Justin Jefferson. I believe this is the play with Justin Jefferson. See if it's a play action pass or if it's a run. Yeah. So here's a play fake, and they're going to run what we call a climb, right? Crosser. Look at CV play this. And he's going to get a catch on him here. But look, doesn't look like it's too big for him.
No.
Watch him try to undercut it too.
Yeah.
And again, notice the marker. Notice the first down marker. There's your stop. Bang.
I mean, that's about as good as you can play against, arguably the best receiver in the league, right?
Future Hall of Famer.
That's right. I like the fact that, can you go back to the pre-snap here on that play?
Yeah, man.
I like the fact that he doesn't fall for any of the sugar here at the beginning of the route. Like the early, look at first move, nothing. I'm not biting on none of that.
Yeah.
I love.
If I can get it back here, I'm going to try to loop it so you can see. Yeah.
Yeah. You see, Jefferson's doing all these moves and CV's just staying down, like waiting for the real move. Oh, okay. You're going inside. Now I'm coming with you.
Yep. Definitely.
Love it.
Yeah. And again, man, just great trail technique. You make the play.
Yep. I mean, think about it. Guys like Jefferson, they make their money, roasting guys with that initial move, right? They take the DB right out of the play right away. That's half the battle. If you cannot fall for that and stay with your guy, you got a chance to make a play, Yeah.
So here we are. He's going to kind of come up here a little closer to the line of scrimmage. You've seen Gary kick in a little bit. See if we're going to go a run play. It is. So watch CV. Once again, what's the number one goal? Make sure he can't bounce it, right? Let's see how he plays this. Get outside half. Played the outside half. Coop on the ball. Rashawn Gary on the ball. Let's watch Gary on that rep.
We should have won this damn game, Clayton. We should have won.
Hey, man, when you pull your starting quarterback, things happen. You know what I mean? We were pretty damn banged up, too, man. It was Christian Watson. I think all the air came out of that build when Christian Watson hit the ground, man.
Mm-hmm.
So devastating. But again, Carrington, man, another stop.
He was the best guy around.
All right, let's see. One more I think we got here. Maybe two more. So here we are. It looks like he's going to play a little off coverage. Ball snap. Oh, yeah, a little bubble screen. Look at this, boys. Look at the break already. This poor bastard has no clue what's going on.
He hasn't even caught the ball yet.
Yep. And watch what happens, too. Force fumble. Bang. Ball out. We got
Love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah. And again, that's just the read and diagnose, right?
Now, we've seen him off. We've seen him pressed up. We've seen him in zone. We've seen him in a man look. What is he having difficulty with? I'm not seeing it.
Yeah. I'm with you, Tim. And listen, I don't think he's a number one corner yet. I don't.
That's why, yet, right? Not yet.
Right. And that's why I was in favor. We might have one more play here, do we? No, that's it. That's why, Tim, I was in favor of keeping Ja, and understand it's not as simple as do you want him or not. There's contractual issues there. Would Ja have actually taken the $6 to $8 million deal if the Packers had offered it? Possibly. But the thought of Carrington Valentine on the outside, Ja on the other outside, and Nate Hobbs in the slot, man, that sounds magical. But again, Goody decided, hey, it's time to move on. And now what you're going to end up getting is Carrington Valentine on the outside, right? Hopefully, Carrington on the outside, Keyshawn on the other side, and then you'll have Nate Hobbs in the slot. And then when you go to your base 4-3, I think it's going to be Keyshawn on the outside along with Nate Hobbs. I'm hoping it's Carrington on the outside with Nate Hobbs on the outside. There's some people that say, Hobbs doesn't play well on the outside. That could be the case. But when you pay him that kind of money, and again, it's not number one corner money, but when you pay him the kind of money you did, Tim, he's going to be on the field in that base defense, right? He's going to be. Yeah. So now it comes down to, are you willing to start CV over Keyshawn in your base 4-3? I wish they would. I think that's the better option. But again, I'm not evaluating practice. They see these players a hell of a lot more than I do. So, yeah. Let's see here. H.E. Solder says, so you have high FBI with Valentine and Cooper. Who is the disruptor on the defensive line? All three levels.
LVN this year, baby. Let's go. Unlock LVN.
If he continues what he was doing in the second half of the season. Now, when I hear that, though, when he says who's the disruptor on the defensive line, Tim, I think interior. I think that's more important than the edge. We broke it down a little bit last night with Devontae Wyatt, and his run stop rate was actually a lot better than we thought. Remember that when we had Emilio break out his Mexicano calculator for us? And I think that needs to be the next video we do. I think we need to do a little breakdown of
Wyatt.
The Devontae Wyatt run stops. Because, guys, I was really critical of Devontae Wyatt the first couple of years in the league. He played recklessly out of control in the run game. He was taking his own guys out. He was just – it was like whether it was a rundown or not, he's rushing the damn passer. And the running back's running right by him. He's taking Kenny's legs out. He's just playing reckless. Last year, it was harnessed a little bit more. So that needs to be the next video. I'm going to make a note right now. I'll try to put that together tomorrow. I should have some extra time. So I'm going to go Wyatt. And remind me tomorrow too, Tim. Shoot me a text. Say Wyatt run stops.
Got it.
That way we can get a little look. Because, again, Solder, do I think Wyatt is the answer there? I don't feel comfortable saying that. But I think he's better equipped, because if they're going to continue to play Kenny in the one tech in our nickel 4-2-5, which is the nose, right? He's going to play the nose and the nickel. I like Kenny in the nose way better than Devontae Wyatt in the nose, because you want him in that 3-tech to 4-eye look where he can rush the passer. And it's not as simple as, okay, they're going to pass here, I'm rushing the passer. Like teams are constantly trying to, manipulate those looks and get you convinced they're running when they're passing when they're running, especially on those early downs. But right now, I would say it's got to be Devontae Wyatt right now for me. Now, what you said with LVN, Tim, there are rumors that they're going to play LVN.
Go inside. Yeah.
Inside. And that could be the case as well. But now, if that happens, though, where does he play? He's not going to play 1-tech, right? He's going to probably play the 3-tech, I would imagine. So it's going to be interesting. But, yeah, we'll do that, man. We'll see if we can break out a little Wyatt tape and dive into that tomorrow.
Good homework going into camp too. Gives us something to look for when we're watching practice. Let's see how they're lining these guys up and how they're running them.
Mm-hmm. Holmes MD1 says Hobbs can be very effective outside. The Raiders just suck. Hey, I haven't watched enough Hobbs tape to be confident in agreeing with you, Holmes. Other than the Raiders do suck. I'm with you there, man. That's a fact. Maybe that's something else we need to do, Tim. A little Hobbs tape, right? A little Hobbs coverage. That'll be the next thing we break down. All right. And again, we got a little bit of dead time. This is the stuff you want to do in a dead period for sure. Let's see what else we got here in the chat. Ed Madden said Hobbs is a dog. I like him. We're not going to show any run snaps with Hobbs because we know what we got there. He's a damn dog. He is a dog at playing the run. Like what we seen with CV just now, which all looked good with those 15 stops, Hobbs blows that out of the water. So I want to see, from a coverage standpoint, can he truly play outside? And I think the best way to look at that, Tim, would be the targets. We ain't got time to watch all the targets, but I don't know. There's probably 30 or less targets for him, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So
I'm assuming a lot of what we're going to see is him in the slot. So it's not really going to give us too much of an answer to our can he play outside question.
Right. I'm trying to see here. DB, if it'll pull it up. I'm trying to go to the Raiders page. I'm not going to put it on the screen, but just to kind of give you guys an idea here. I've got it pulled up off screen. How many targets did Hobbs have? Hobbs was targeted 43 times. He gave up 24 receptions. His passer rating, by the way, allowed was a 71.9. I did a quick little breakdown earlier, Tim. I want to get your take on this. The most important aspects of a cornerback, right, I think are these three metrics that we have. Now, I couldn't run down the EPA allowed. I would have to do a little more digging to get to that. So keep in mind that's not included here. But here's what I broke down, Tim, for our 4 top corners, which are Valentine, Nixon, Hobbs, and Bullard. Okay. Passer rating allowed, right? Interceptions, and PFF grade, not coverage grade, but overall defensive grade. That way you get a little bit of that run defense mixed in as well. Okay. So I went through and got the ranking of all 4 of these players, 1 through 4, right? Who rated first, who rated second, who rated third, who rated fourth. Passer rating allowed, it was Carrington Valentine in first place. Second was Nate Hobbs with a 71.9. Third was Nixon. Fourth was Javon Bullard. Moving on to interceptions. Who had the most interceptions? Carrington Valentine led the way, so he's in first place there. Nixon and Hobbs were tied with 1 interception last year, so they would be second, tied for second. And Javon Bullard came in fourth because he didn't have any interceptions. Then PFF, overall PFF grade, so run defense and pass coverage grade mixed in together to come up with that overall defensive grade. Carrington Valentine was in first with the highest PFF grade. Nixon was second. Hobbs was third. Javon Bullard was fourth. So when you look at Nate Hobbs' PFF grade, you would think, oh, man, he's a bad football player. But then when you look at the passer rating when targeted at 71.9, pretty damn solid, you know? So when you average that out, here's the numbers we came up with. The total number for Valentine was 3. The total number for Nixon and Hobbs were 7. And Bullard was 12. What's that tell you? That when you take the 3 things that are most important, and I didn't do touchdowns allowed. If we did, Hobbs hands down would have won because Nate Hobbs only gave up 1 touchdown last year. Keyshawn Nixon gave up 5, I believe. So it would suggest that Nixon and Hobbs are kind of close together, but the big thing that sticks out, Valentine hands down is the best cornerback on this team based off of the 2024 performance. Does that make sense?
100%. I agree.
Yeah, that's it's going to be interesting, man, to see if Valentine – I don't think there's any staying the same. If, you're either getting better or you're getting worse.
Yep.
If there was staying the same, the way Valentine played last year, Carrington Valentine, it was more than enough, more than good enough to be a great cornerback in the league. But again, he needs to get better because I don't think there's any staying the same. There's a chance that he reverts back to his rookie status. I hope that's not the case, but I'm being realistic and understanding that, hey, that could happen. But if
this is the year for it too, right?
Right.
If he's gonna take that step, it's gonna be in 2025, man. Ja's out of the picture. We've got a little bit of depth, by bringing Nate Hobbs in here. So there's a little bit of, I don't know what you want to call it, not a security blanket, but some comfortability there. You've got guys in that room that you're familiar with. You've played the last couple of years with. For all intents and purposes, this is his year. It really is. He's either going to step up and be that number 1 dude and show that he can be a potential number 1 corner, or he's not. I agree. You're either growing or you're dying, right?
Yeah, for sure. Let's see here. Soder had a comment I wanted to hit. He played with Max Crosby. How did he ever have to defend a pass? It's what's
pronounced crazy. Max Crosby.
Here's what's crazy about that, Soder. Guess who had a higher quarterback pressure percentage? Max Crosby or Brenton Cox Jr.? Brenton Cox Jr. did.
Heard it from a fan right here.
Guess who had a higher quarterback pressure percentage? Max Crosby or Rashawn Gary? Rashawn Gary was over 13%. Max Crosby finished the year at a 12.3% pressure percentage. And I know people will immediately say, yeah, but how many sacks did he have? I'm glad you asked. He had 7.5, the same amount as Gary. Here's the kicker. It's 96% play time for Max Crosby with only 7.5 sacks.
Yep.
So Max was not as good as people think he was last year. But with that being said, and that's the other thing, Tim, like we talk about we don't, but people talk about Max Crosby like he's just this dominant force.
Right.
How come the Raiders were so bad?
Right. And
like, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
and it's hard to play, 50, 60 snaps a game and be, deadly on every single one of them.
Right.
You're going to be gassed at some point, or I'm not saying guys take plays off, but it's kind of the victim of being that type of a player, right? You're always on the field. You're playing the bulk of snaps. I mean, it's hard to be 100% effective the entire game. It really is.
Yeah. Soder says social media will remind us that Crosby was hurt. Isn't it funny? It's when they get stuck on something, man,
yep.
It's like that's the gospel. That's the only thing that matters.
Yep. But we're not allowed to talk about Jordan Love playing banged up.
No. We're not allowed to do that. We're not allowed to point out that the reason Jair career kind of went brrr because he got in there being too aggressive, playing the run and hurt the shoulder, and he was never the same player. It's just, yeah, it's going to be an interesting season, though, man. I can't wait. Cody says, Crosby wanted out. He's such a problem. It creates pressure for others. Come on, we know now. We'll move it along. Holmes MD1 says, Crosby plays crazy, but he looks so skinny to me. I don't know how he does it. There was somebody else that broke down Crosby, too. He's so long.
Yeah. He almost looks like a tight end more than an edge guy.
And blockers are like, man, it's so awkward. It's so hard trying to block him. Holmes says 6'5", 250 is skinny for edge. Yeah. Which is funny because like when was the last time we had a starting edge defender that was less than 260 pounds? Seemed like it's been a little bit, right? I want to say Gary's played over 260 for the most part. Now, I think they may trend a little bit leaner based off of what they've done here lately. The rumors of LVN kicking inside, and then you go out and you get a Colin Oliver if he ends up playing edge instead of stack. I mean, that dude is tiny compared to what we've done here in the past,
I'm looking forward to that too. I feel like that would be the best case scenario, right? Mm-hmm. We probably got stack backer shored up here. We got some depth there now.
Yeah. Ed Madden says Hobbs could be a little like Rasul with being physical. Rasul would create more turnovers, though. I think that's a fair comparison, Ed. I do. I could see that, man, for sure. Mm-hmm. All right, we got Chris.
Did he sign anywhere yet?
Rasul, no, he did. I honestly, man, last year it was bad. It was pretty bad last year, if I remember correctly. I remember looking a couple times and being like, ugh. So, yeah. But anyway, there is your Carrington breakdown, and I'm glad we dove into it because, again, man, it's not just about covering. You want your corners to first and foremost be good cover corners, but when you turn the run defense around the way we did last year, it's not just the guys in the middle. It's not just the edge defenders and Gary. And Gary was a stop machine. We could put on the tape watching Rashawn Gary's stops, and we'd be here all damn night. I mean, he finished with – I've already went away from the screen, but I can't remember how many stops it was. It was something crazy for someone who played as few snaps as he did with this heavy rotation we got. Yeah, he ended up – according to NFL Pro, he had 39 stops, Tim, and only played 58% of the play. He had 58% play time. So,
and you said Crosby was what, 94%?
Yeah. Basically, he was 96. Wow. Crosby was 96% play time and had 7.5 sacks. Rashawn Gary was 58% play time and had 7.5 sacks. Max Crosby finished with 12% pressure rate. Rashawn Gary finished with 13.4%. That's what it ended up shaking out to. And again, Max Crosby in his best year, unbelievable player.
Yep.
Unbelievable player. Nobody's denying that. But people forget Rashawn Gary's best year. He had a 19% pressure rate. He's a damn dog. Well, he never got 10 sacks. I know. 50 and 60% playtime. That heavy rotation. You gotta do what you got to do there. So, all right. Let's get out of here, Tim. Anything else you got, bub? Anything at all?
Go Pack, go, baby. We're almost there.
Yeah. I agree, man. It's right around the corner. Tomorrow, we're going to do the giveaway. We're going to be giving away the autographed Luke Musgrave cards. So make sure, if you're not a member of our Patreon community, you want to get an opportunity to win a cool piece of memorabilia, just join our group, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. Just the $3 tier is all you need. Get you access to everything, including entered into the giveaways. We got a bunch of cool giveaways coming up. We got some jerseys coming up here soon, too. So we'll probably gear those up for training camp, Tim. Start to throw those things out. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, awesome. Yeah. And we got, like I said, shout out to Mary. Mary, we played that video at the top of the show. Appreciate y'all sending that over. I see you there in the chat. Excited to partner up with y'all like that. And again, it was our pleasure meeting you at the draft. It was a blast. So, all right, we're out, guys. We'll see y'all tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. If I have time to put it together, we'll put some Devontae Wyatt run stops together, and then we'll focus on Hobbs's coverage as well on down the road. So with that being said, we're out of here. For those of you listening on the pod, appreciate y'all making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack.
Here we go.
Bye, guys.